This podcast is brought to you by the Texas Hill Country River region in Uvalde County. What's super unique about this area is that the Frio, Nueces, and Sabinal rivers are all located in the same county. It's like the hill country that you know and love, but really rural, so you're surrounded by wildlife, and life just kind of slows down out here, so you can enjoy the simple pleasures like campfires and fishing and just enjoying the company of the people that you love.
For more information, go to visituvaldecounty.com. Buenos dias, beautiful people. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Taylor. He came in from Indiana. Okay. I was about to say Ohio, but I mean the same thing, right?
Yeah,
same
pretty
area.
much.
Taylor, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm doing phenomenal. Super excited to be here and just overall grateful.
No, good. And I am here with my beautiful wife, Leah.
Hello.
Co-host of the In Between podcast. And we decided to interview Taylor for the podcast because he has a pretty cool little story that in his life is pretty cool, and it's in, you know, any adventurer who likes to travel would find it interesting. But why don't you tell us a little bit, about your life and how you got started doing what you're doing?
Okay, yeah. I'll try to make it as short and sweet as possible. So, in about 2 years ago, I was living in Houston, which is, I got brought down to brought down to Texas, and I found my way into Houston. And a few months later, I ended up having to sell everything and move into a vehicle. Which, if you're familiar with Texas and Houston, during the summer, that can be a little difficult. It gets a little hot, so it's hard to escape that heat.
Yeah.
But even with that, like I endured the heat, and I just fell in love with the whole van life and the freedom that living in your vehicle gives you. And at that time, it was just a truck, so it was pretty uncomfortable for me and my dog. But we managed, and then we moved back home and dedicated ourselves to finding out how to do this sustainably. In the midst, we acquired some skills and traveled to these places where we learned how to farm and live sustainably. So we wanted to use that to kind of build and help meet other people that wanted to do the same. And especially with 2020, when 2020 hit, I think everybody was like, I think we need to be self-sustainable. Yeah. So, learning these skills and allowing me to travel around and help people like yourself, and just meet incredible people, that really turned into a passion very quickly. So I got a little sidetracked, but so after getting forced into my vehicle, I really fell in love with it and fell in love with the whole experience. And then finding yourselves on different farms and homesteads and living in these different states and learning about their natural habitats and stuff. It's just, it for one, it's overwhelming, but two, once you get a grasp on it, man, there's so much to learn and so much to give in that sense. You meet people that just coincide and just coexist in that synergistic realm to where everything just flows naturally, and that's really just what I'm trying to live about. Just my freedom comes from the flow, just being in that flow and not trying to force things or control things, but just going where the wind takes me, and it just allows me to meet these great people like yourselves. And yeah, just great.
So speaking of going where the wind takes you, going with the flow, like that's how you ended up here in Concan. Mm-hmm. So in November, I posted a TikTok, like, we're not going to make a whole lot of money in January because it's slow. So who wants to come stay with us and let's do cool stuff? And you responded. Mm-hmm. And we actually had thousands of people respond, but your response jumped out because you were like, I do regenerative gardening and water system. I was like, I don't know what that is, but it sounds great. So like, let's do it because I love plants. And so here you are. And it was that kind of going with the flow of your life and responding to this like random pink haired girl on TikTok. And here you are 20-hour drive later in Concan, Texas. Yep. So it's just kind of neat how that's kind of the pattern of your whole life right now.
Yeah, it's very much been so, to where, you know, I'll end up one place and it'll give me the skills to end up at the next place. So that has just been truly a blessing. And I think that, you know, the universe works in very mysterious ways. And, you know, if I didn't answer the call, then those calls would eventually stop. So I always pick up that phone.
Yeah. Say yes to adventure.
That's awesome. So you said you got forced out of your, you were living in Houston at the time. You had a house and everything. What was the experience? Is that something that you can talk about? Or
it you know, kind of sounds a little more dramatic than it is, but we basically got this contract to where we would move into this house, and which was hit by the most recent hurricane. I think it's Hurricane Katrina. And we were going to renovate it while we lived in it. Well, there was just a lot of miscommunication. They ended up selling the house as is before our contract was up. So we were like, you know, all our money and everything is invested in this right now. So what are we going to do? I was just like, well, I'll just sell everything, so that way we have enough money to do the next day. And it just turned into a day-by-day process. And we're like, I'm tired of making money to spend on an Airbnb or, you know, just a roof overhead for that night. So that's when we decided that it'd just be best just to keep that money, stay in the van, and just continue that day by day.
Would you say that was one of the best choices you made in your life?
I don't think that I made it the choice, but it's definitely the best choice that's ever been made for me. I would never go back. And I've had the chance to, you know, to go, what I would say go back, you know, to society, to civilization and all that stuff. But man, this is a lot better for me.
That's awesome. And you do have a partner with you.
Yeah, my dog, he's a Belgian Malinois, will not leave my side, and I can't even force him to leave my side. But yeah, he's my partner in crime.
And his name is Bucky. He's a cool dog.
I was calling him Buckaroo today, but I don't think he liked it, because we were like BFFs, and then I started calling him Buckaroo, and then he was like not having it anymore. So I think that's why. Well,
I think you guys are just fighting over the rabbits right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. His dog decided that he is the keeper of the rabbits,
the guardian of the rabbits.
So,
Yes. You got your hands full with that one.
Yeah.
So you talked about how Taylor got to Concan. What's next on your list after this?
Well, short time the plan is to head home and to restock. Hopefully outfit a better van so I can be fully sustainable. I'd like to have a fully tiny home on wheels, so that way I can go anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And then after that, it's just to see what I haven't seen yet, meet who I haven't met yet, and do what I haven't done yet.
That's good. And it's pretty I mean, it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing, because I mean, a lot of people would love to do that. They just can't let go of that, you know, the typical living, you know, in the house, and you know, the fears of the unknown.
Exactly.
Like what if and just like, you know, how we were talking before the podcast, how had we not just got the stuff and figured out how to do the podcast afterwards, if we would have sat there and tried to, you know, analyze every possible problem, we would have talked ourselves out of it. I feel like there's people out there who want to do what you're doing, but they just talk themselves out of it. Like, so what would you tell them that, you know, what advice would you give them to make that, you know, next step forward?
Shia LaBeouf and Nike both said it both. Just do it. I mean, you have to just jump into the unknown. It's an abyss and it's dark, but you know, once you get in there, you realize how light and vibrant it is, and there's just so much for you that in that unknown that you had no idea about. It's going to be scary, but I always say, and I think I've always said this, if it's not scary, it's not worth doing. I think that's something I've always lived my life by, whether I've been aware of it and conscious or not. And I think that's what's got me here. But it's definitely, another piece is it's so worth it. If you have any inclination or any passion, always follow that. And if it happens to land you in a van, I mean, good for you. It just allows you to see so much more. Yeah. And there's so much to see that other people won't see because they won't get out of that comfort zone. And, you know, I think in the comfort zone is where we get lost. And there's another saying that I like is no pressure, no diamonds. So, you know, if you don't place that pressure on yourself, you know, the universe is going to put it on you, and, you know, there's going to be a diamond one way or another, but I'm going to choose how that diamond's made.
So what is like the coolest story from the road? Like your favorite moment?
Wow. Well, besides meeting wolves and playing with wolves, which was very recent, I mean, a couple hours. Most of them have just been stories of overcoming. We had a trip where we bought a 1984 custom Chevy C30 bus, where we literally bought it and decided to drive to Florida that day. And it broke down 3 different times in a you know, was supposed to be a 12-hour trip turned into a 3-day trip. And you know, each one was a near-death experience, to say the least. But we just, like, you know, we got it fixed and we hopped back in and we kept driving. So perseverance was probably the theme of that trip, and that, you know, it's carried along a great way. But besides that, man, when you're doing this side of stuff, like, everywhere you go is just like a new world. I was in Colorado, which, if you don't know, most of Colorado, East Colorado, is a desert, which I didn't know until I got there.
Didn't know that.
You end up in the Colorado desert, and there's animals you never seen before, and they're doing stuff that you never thought animals would do. So, you know, the first night I ever stayed in Colorado in this desert, I had a pack of coyotes 20 feet from me eating a cow without knowing it until the next morning.
Wow.
So just adventure, whether you're asleep or awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
The trip that you're talking about in the bus, was that just you, or was that you and someone else?
That was me, Bucky, and a friend at the time. So up until that trip, I had a co-pilot who's a longtime best friend. And we did the Houston and we did the Florida together. But after that, it turned into just Bucky and I.
Do you prefer traveling by yourself or with other people? Because I see there's so much good in both. Like, sometimes it's so great to travel, but like solo road trips are also kind of amazing because you control the radio and like the stops, and I don't know. There's just something, I like both. But.
Yeah, no, I do too. Traveling with somebody, it was great because it took a lot of the fear away. It's so much more comfortable going into something with something else, or going into something with somebody else. So that was nice because I was like, it was a lot more just throw caution to the wind. Solo trips, I still carry a lot of that, but there's a lot more intimidation that goes into some of these things. It's like, I'm the only one here. I mean, I got my dog, but, you know, there's other things that can happen. But on the flip side, it makes it so much more fulfilling because, like you said, I have complete and utter, you know, I put this in quotations, control over more of the situations, because there's, you know, one less mouth to feed, one less bed you need, you know, that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more freedom, but more fear. But I mean, I think the fear is a messenger, and as long as you listen to the message, then you're good.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking when you were making your way down here, or even the days leading up to coming down here? Was the anticipation building up? And
yeah, we could have been crazy people. You didn't know. You could have been crazy people. We didn't know.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of anticipation. You know, I think most people would read it as anxiety, but I read it as excitement. And then I think that excitement just stems from another jump into, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I've been to Austin 100 times. But, you know, I get 1 mile past and I don't know where I'm at. So I think it's always excitement of just like, what's going to happen. Like, I try to have expectations, but I also try to not have expectations. So finding that balance of, you know, getting yourself motivated to do it and to actually take that jump, but without attaching yourself to anything just not attaching yourself to anything, just like letting things happen as they go, and taking you where the wind goes.
So you do regenerative gardening.
Wait, we need to pause because I didn't know what that was, and I'm sure that a lot of people don't know what that is. Like, what is the difference between regenerative gardening and just gardening?
So the regenerative just refers to giving nutrients back to the soil as you take them out. Because if you're growing something, whatever you're growing is going to feed, and it's going to feed on the nutrients of the soil. So if you're not giving nutrients back into the soil, you're just slowly depleting it, which happens a lot in just regular gardening and agricultural farming. But there's a wave of regenerative gardening to where you keep that soil rich throughout its entire life. There's tons of ways to do that, but as long as you're adding in nutrients and as you're taking the nutrients out, that's the bare bones regenerative gardening definition.
Then you do that with chickens or worms. Those are a couple of the examples that you gave.
Yeah.
And
compost. Yeah. Composting is the easiest way to do it. And how the easiest and my favorite way to do it is with animals. You feed your animals your scraps, you use their natural compost. And the whole world just goes round. There's also other ways to do that because not everybody can have or want animals. There's tons of ways to do it. It take 3 podcasts just to get through that. Yeah. But as long as you're composting and breaking down natural unprocessed food waste into soil, then you're doing God's work. I mean, that's what nature does. Is it grows and it breaks down all on its own. So as long as you can keep that going.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that you're multi-skilled person. You can do regenerative gardening. You can make your own wine, which I need to try some of it because you actually brought some of it, and it's strawberry.
Short answer is strawberry banana.
Strawberry banana. Okay. You're into jiu-jitsu, and you love dogs and are into dog training and whatnot. What else is there underneath?
What do we not know about?
What do we not? I mean, I feel like you're a man of many hats.
Yeah, I think so. Like I think I very much embody the jack of all trades, master of none. I've just been slowly picking up as many skills as I can be to where what I feel would be self-sustainable or, what I envision myself doing. Butchering is a new skill I just picked up. It's a very challenging but very fulfilling skill. I know a lot of people shy away from it, but just being connected to that whole process of raising the animal, feeding it, loving it, and then, the other side of that process is just as valuable, especially when you're consuming that animal. But yeah, I love mixed martial arts. That's the grand goal. While I travel, I like to train. What else do I do? Like I said, I just learned a little bit of everything. I've worked a lot of jobs in a lot of fields and a lot of different areas. So I've had a lot of mentors teach me the bare bones of a lot of different things. So I just try to use that and customize it to wherever I need to fit.
Craziest job was a grave digger. No.
Wow.
I had a job for a long time. I really enjoyed it. It was caretaking for a graveyard, digging graves, and engraving tombstones.
Where would one go to get a job like that?
Gotta go to the cemetery, find the nearest dude, and just ask him for a resume, I guess. It was purely happenstance for me. I guess I just knew the right person.
That's funny. How long did you do that?
I did it for about a year.
Okay,
which is for me is pretty long. I've had a lot of jobs where I worked a lot less than that, but that was one that I seemed to keep me around, kept me interested long enough.
Hey, a year, that's a long time. So the person that you were with before, that they just decide to tap out?
Basically, yeah. Just nothing against him. He still loves to travel. It's just it was a little bit too intensive for him. Because I mean, you're like I said, you're never. There's no consistency, structure, or regimen.
Yeah.
I mean, each day is completely new, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's very stressful. You got to kind of choose your stress and choose your sacrifice, and I chose that one.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you like structure, then take notes. Maybe this is not for you.
Yeah. If you like comfort, sorry.
But there is comfort in other things. Maybe not being able to know that you're going to sleep in the same bed every night. You know where your house is. You go there, you show up, and it's your home is there. You know where it's at. You go there every day. Same spot, doesn't move. But I feel like there is comforts in other things when you're on the road.
Yeah.
But what would those be?
I mean, I say comfort comes in many different shades, especially when you're chasing something, and especially when that something gives you passion. I mean, there's been many nights where I've been more comfortable in my van at a truck stop with, a sleeping bag and Bucky than I have been in a bed at an in-law's house, or not, it wouldn't be an in-law, but at a relative's house, with a kitchen to cook in, a bathroom to do your stuff in, and a bed to sleep in. But those nights when, especially if you got the clearness of the sky to where you got the comfort of the stars, as I like to say, then I guess comfort comes in many different shades. It can be inside my van with all the windows blocked out and a small light with a reading light with me and Bucky, or it could be outside underneath the stars, not a soul for hundreds of miles, or it could just be just as simply just a walk in a piece of nature that you've never been in before. I mean, there's definitely many times where I've been comforted without having any comfort.
To touch on what you said earlier about being in a relative's house and not feeling the comforts, I mean, it can be pretty uncomfortable staying at an in-law's place or a relative's place, whether that be in-laws or parents, or I mean, it's
grandparents. Yeah.
It can definitely be uncomfortable, but yeah, I know that's true. I've been many times.
We have. When we first got married, we were living with my grandparents and then my parents. So, there's even when we first got married, we were living in Australia in an apartment with another couple. So there's something about kind of having your own space, even if it's a van, if it's a small space, or a tiny home, like what we live in, like it's, there's something nice about having a space that's yours. And, I don't know.
Even dogs are territorial. So that tells you something, like your space is sacred. Whether it's a cave or a mansion, like it should be sacred. And I definitely feel more comfortable in my minivan than I do in a big house, wherever that may be. That might change. Time is crazy.
That's good you're not married to your ideas and ways, because
what's the saying? God laughs at your plans. Like, what's the point of having a plan? It's
might just go with the flow. And it'll all work out. You also mentioned that you want to do a podcast. What's the inspiration for that? And then can you kind of also tell the listeners what the idea? I think is really cool.
Wait, do you want to share the idea?
Yeah, he has to.
I don't know. Somebody could take it.
There's got to be some accountability here.
Especially
share it with the world, and then it has to happen.
You put it out there, I have to do it. So I'll start with the idea, just because it's very similar to what I think you guys are doing. Maybe vice versa, I guess, to where instead of the guest come to you, I come to the guest. But yeah, I'd love to just have a podcast where I pull up to you. Maybe we start a fire. I call it bring your own chair. You sit around the fire. We share some maybe homemade wine, maybe something that you've homemade, and we just share stories and share common ground. I think that there's a lot of people that have so much to tell, but no way to tell it. And I'd like to be able to give people that while also giving another excuse to travel and meet people and
drink homemade
drink
wine.
wine.
Yeah, that's so much of why we wanted to start this, just because we've hosted so many people and there's so many interesting stories, and they're not the stories that you're hearing on the news or that you're seeing movies, or they're not the people that are given platforms. They're just people that happen to be staying with us for their vacation, and they tell us their story, and we're just like, that's super cool. Somebody needs to hear that. So that kind of drive to share about other people is exactly why we started the
because I've saved with a lot of characters to where they they could have their own cartoon. And then I've just said with a lot of interesting people like yourself that just have so much to share and shine with the world. It's just, there's no reason not to, especially with in today's world where, media rules, and especially when it's third party and it's real people giving the narrative. I think that's what people are missing these days.
Yeah. I just, on that note, I want to challenge people to just randomly get to know somebody, just find common ground instead of what you just, seeing what's on the surface, which is what you read or see on social media. We need a lot more of that. And now I'm including that too, because I'm not on social media, but just I can easily judge a book by its cover. And I have to remember that there's a lot more underneath that. And I just have to find common ground, talk to somebody and get to know them. And if people did that more, it would change the way people think about a certain group of people or race or whatever the case is. I mean, you name it, category.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. Just get to know somebody. Just talk to them.
Be vulnerable.
Yeah, you exactly. Leave yourself vulnerable. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot. Being married to Leah, I've learned a lot.
Only because I have read every Brene Brown book ever written. The Queen of Vulnerability. She's so good.
Yeah, she's taught me a lot. And I'm so grateful and thankful and blessed that God put her in my life, because she's, by proximity to her, has made me a better person. But yeah, back to bring it around again. Just people, if people can just get to know somebody that maybe is their neighbor or somebody they see at work, and maybe they do say hi to them, but never really more than that. Or just a stranger, at the store or gas station, you're pumping your gas. We were at the 7-Eleven the other day getting some provisions, and we went in, grabbed some provisions, and I went out the car and then had to go back inside again. Well, all I did differently, instead of just paying and saying thank you, the guy behind the register, he was Asian, and I can hear him speaking in his language.
He was talking on the phone.
He was on the phone
while he was cashing out Jake.
So yeah, sorry I left that out. But it might have been his second language. I'm not saying that was his first. Could have been his first or second. But I just asked him, and I think I caught him off guard. And I said, "How do you say thank you in your language?" And he told me, and then he just kind of like he gave me this look like, where are you going with this? Yeah. With his eyes. And then I repeated it back to him, and then you can just kind of see like the light and bright and smile and happiness come in his face after I told him that. And he really didn't know how to, like, he was genuinely shocked. But I want to say, I want to say confidently that might have changed his day, made it better for him. And I hope it did. And I'm glad that I did that because I almost didn't.
Hopefully you didn't like mispronounce the word and cuss him out, because he has a history of that. We were was it in Italy or Greece? I don't know. We were in Europe somewhere, and in Greece. And the whole time he was like saying, learned phrases and was like really trying to speak the language. And he said, we were at a restaurant and he told the lady like, this was so good. I loved it. And her face just got so serious. Her eyes got really big and she looked embarrassed. And we were like, what did he just say to you? And she was like, I can't say it. We're like, what did he just say? I can't say. She wouldn't say it. And finally she told us. And why he said it wasn't that bad, but she was just kind of like thrown off because he was a tourist. But what he said, instead of just saying this is really good, he said, this is effing good. And she said, that's not something you would say to your waitress. And anyway, it was an accident. It was just, awesome. He said one little thing wrong and he was cussing at her. Yeah. So.
I don't know if I can replicate that again, but even if I try.
Please don't.
But hopefully that wasn't the case here with this guy. Yeah. I feel like it wasn't.
Yeah, just showing interest, I think, just helps a lot of people. Just helps a lot of people.
Yeah. Even if you say it wrong, even if you fumble through, just like being interested in people goes a long way. I think.
What is it? The thought that counts? Is that?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So before we close out, wrap up, I want to know, because we were talking earlier about how you have so many different interests and you're constantly learning different things. Is there something that you're super, super interested in right now? Like super just tapped into it?
I would say that the number one would fall into the martial arts, just because I am trying to make I don't know if I'd call it a career out of it, but I am, trying to go that route with it. But that's what I would say that. Okay. Short answer is that. Long answer would be just farming in general and just finding out how I want to do it on my farm whenever I have that and where I want to have that. And, traveling helps out a lot because, I'm learning the area, I'm learning the landscapes. So I'm choosing the best real estate, while also learning what does well and what doesn't, where it does and where it doesn't. So I think those two would definitely have to fall into that category.
Yeah. That's good. And you were with us for almost 2 weeks now, and you build some what'd you call them, planter boxes or garden boxes. So if anyone listening comes out to state, the in between, the garden boxes that we have, Taylor built them. Unfortunately, for lack of planning on our part and lack of materials, he couldn't finish it all, but next time he comes out, it should be finished.
He finished the boxes. It's just the dirt. The dirt isn't here yet, and that's no fault but ours.
Yeah. We appreciate that. And you also did a little other odds and ends there for us too. So, and it's been great having you too. So we can't wait till you come back and visit us again, whether that be just for vacation or work or whatever the case is, or both, and however it happens. But if there's somebody out there who wants to get a hold of you, or maybe wants to practice or train with you, or maybe they have a farm that they would like to have you out and help them, that is something that you would be interested in, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, where would they get a hold of you at, or how would they get a hold of you?
I'd probably say that the best and the easiest way would just be Instagram, and that is @the_Wyldman. The reason it's that is because I'm trying to rewild myself and be as in touch with the wild as I can. So I'm trying to really embody the wild man. Plus, it's a great mixed martial arts nickname.
Yeah, for sure. It all goes. It's like the whole package.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I feel like I've unintentionally made a brand.
Yeah.
And this is the name of that brand. So
for sure. No, it works. It works.
Definitely. You got the, well, too bad we don't have video, but just to give y'all guys a visual, Taylor has a beard and he has long hair. I can't tell if he has a mullet, but
kind of moldy.
He has a hat on.
He has a hat on. But you know, if you were judging from the cover, you would never expect him to be as good of a guy as he is. And
you think he's a wild man.
You would think he fit the Instagram handle, but that's
maybe
not,
sometimes
not
more
case.
homeless than wild, but
Oh, well, awesome. Thank you, Taylor. It's been great having you on. It's been great having you stay with us. And we can't wait to hear from you again once you start your podcast, because we're going to
listen to it.
We'll be listening to it.
Well, you guys will be guests too. So
no, thank you. I'll be looking forward to it. And then we'll of course have you back on again, and we'll talk about it again once it's up and running.
it's awesome.
So, thank you again for staying with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a magical time, to say the least. So if anybody's looking for some magic, come to the In-Between.
Oh, thank you. All right, folks. Hasta luego. Be nice and stay happy
and hydrated.
And hydrated.
The all H's.
Yeah.
Happy, hydrated, and humble.
All right. Have a good night or day, whatever time it is that you're listening to this. Bye.